Hello and welcome. I'm Sima Katauka and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. US President Donald Trump steps back from threats to use tariffs or force over Greenland, saying a deal with Denmark is possible. NATO Chief Mark Rutte says Greenland's sovereignty is not discussed with Trump, focusing instead on Arctic security. Denmark's foreign minister says US President Donald Trump has sent positive signals by ruling out military action over Greenland. Trump also says he has a framework deal and drops tariff threats after talks with NATO chief Mark Rutte. Russian President Vladimir Putin says he will meet US envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to discuss the war in Ukraine and frozen Russian assets. US President Donald Trump is also set to meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Davos. Seven countries, including Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt, say they will join US President Donald Trump's Board of Peace alongside Israel. Trump says Russia's Vladimir Putin has also accepted, but Moscow says it is still reviewing the invitation. Syria's government accuses the Kurdish-led SDF of attacks that kill 11 soldiers, but the group disputes the claims and blames at least one blast on Syrian troops. The incident risks derailing a 4-day ceasefire as Damascus pushes for the SDF to integrate into the state. The Trump administration starts immigration enforcement raids in Maine called Operation Catch of the Day. The Homeland Security Department confirms a spokesperson suggests targeting Maine responds to a political feud with Democratic Governor Janet Mills over sanctuary police. Venezuela's interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, has said that she's approaching talks with the United States without being afraid. The senior U.S. official confirms she will visit Washington soon for diplomatic discussions. Nigerian forces has rescued 62 hostages from the Munhai forest, a hideout linked to bandit leader Kachala Alti. As the UN says, insurgency by Boko Haram and ISWAP has killed about 35,000 people. Meanwhile, in a separate operation, 5 soldiers and a police officer were killed in a terrorist ambush. Now we start this hour with in Davos. The US-EU trade deal is now on hold until further notice. European Parliament Chair Bernd Lange has announced that negotiations will suspend over concerns regarding sovereignty and the ongoing Greenland dispute. The deal, which was initially struck in July of 2025, had lowered US tariffs on European goods. However, senior European lawmakers have said that the deal is now unapprovable after President Trump threatened new tariffs over the Greenland issue. Trump has warned that if the US does not gain control of Greenland, countries including Denmark, Sweden, and Germany will face 10% tariffs starting on February 1st. Though after Trump's meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has announced on his Truth Social platform that he will no longer be moving forward with tariffs on European countries. However, it was not clear whether the US-EU trade is back in place or not. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Jayjit Bhattacharya. He's an economist and finance expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Bhattacharya, for joining us again. Good to see you.
Same.
Thank you. Now looking at this, what do you think, what political factors led the European Parliament to suspend US-EU trade deal despite this apparent rollback? Or not very apparent, but do you think that they had to do something about the US tariff threats? That's why they did it.
Here's the bottom line, that trade leverage works only until it collides with sovereignty, and then it starts backfiring. So the trade agreement has been used as a leverage by the United States till they started impinging on European sovereignty by laying a claim on Greenland. And that really is a red line. So this is not just a trade pause, it's a trust rupture. And going back on it, it will not be very easy because then the European Union would need a whole bunch of non-coercion safeguards, written assurances, and a clearer dispute resolution limits. So the deal is not going to be automatically back on track just because the United States has backtracked on its tariff threats. Because also what is being seen in the last 1 year is that what the US says is not dependable. And we have seen that happening in its bombing of Iran, where it said that it's not going to bomb Iran. And then a week later, it went and promptly bombed Iran. So there is very little now trust in what the US is saying. And therefore, for the deal to come back from the European side, that there would be a need for written assurances, non-coercion safeguards, and also keep in mind that the deal has been now referred to the Supreme Court, which is almost like a bureaucratic sledgehammer because then it will weave through the European Supreme Court and will take its own sweet time to come out. So these are some of the challenges that we see coming out, and it's almost reflective of what happened between Europe and the US in the early 1800s before the 1812 war, where the United States cut off trade relationships more or less between with continental Europe, especially France and Britain, and it immediately actually hit back the American economy, and subsequently it also hit the British and the French economy. So it's a repeat of that is what we are seeing, and I guess we're not learning much from what has happened in the past. Also, let's keep in mind that Greenland is not a bargaining chip for market access. So for Europe, this really crosses from trade policy into security and constitutional territory, and which is why the US response is much sharper than a regular normal tariff dispute. So till now, when it was seen as a normal tariff dispute, we had seen the heads of the European nations come down to the White House, have a conversation, have a discussion, but we are not seeing any more of that, and we are seeing very sharp rebukes at the Davos from the European leaders. So the red line has really shifted, and the tone of the conversation has really shifted. So the backtracking that was announced by the U.S. administration is just a small step. I think much more needs to be done to repair the trust, the trust threat that has happened, or the lack of trust that has happened between Europe and the US. Much more needs to be done to fix that.
Right. So, what are the immediate economic implications for if, in case U.S.-EU trade flows are suspended, and what if this goes on?
So it's going to be detrimental for the global economy for sure, because between the Europe and US, it's almost 10% of the global population, if not more, and it's about roughly 40% of the global economy that we're talking about. So any freezing of trade flows between these two economies is going to have an impact on the rest of the global economy. In the short term, we see both the US and Europe getting hit, because the first thing that the Europe will do is hit at the US farm exports, and that's a very sensitive part of the Europe of the American economy. We've already seen that all major economies have been actually hitting the US agriculture, be it the Chinese who stopped buying American soya, to even India, and now we see Europe threatening to do exactly the same. So the US farm sector will take a massive hit in this particular case. And also we see that the tech sector in Europe will take a significant beating. What we also see is a reshuffle happening, because wherever the US steps out or US imports are stopped, the Chinese imports will start flowing in. So we see China being a great winner in the trade dispute between US and Europe. And which is why you will also see that the Chinese stocks are actually going up, while rest of the global stocks have been going down because of the new friction that has come up over Greenland. So it's going to be quite challenging, and there will be a reshuffling of global economic powers because of this particular rift that has happened. We're also slowly seeing a US versus a non-US economic shift globally. So earlier during the Cold War days, there was the Western powers and the communist economies, now we are seeing a restructuring towards American economy and the rest of the world economy. So we are seeing a sharpening of that, and the rest of the world economy seems to be kind of revolving around Europe, the China and India. So that's becomes the pillars of the non-American global economy that we are seeing is shaping up.
With that, I would like to thank Mr. Jayjit Bhattacharya for joining us and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Putin has stated that Russia could contribute $1 billion from frozen assets to U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. He has also said that the funds would support the board's efforts to oversee global peace initiatives, including the Israel-Gaza ceasefire. Putin has also stated that Russia is currently examining the invitation to join the Board of Peace. He has mentioned that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing the proposal and consulting with strategic partners. Meanwhile, Trump has announced that Putin has accepted the invitation to join the initiative, which aims to involve world leaders in resolving global conflicts. Let's listen into what Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump have shared.
Поэтому уже сейчас, даже до решения нами вопроса об участии в составе и в самой работе Совета мира, учитывая особые отношения России с палестинским народом, мы могли бы, я думаю, направить в Совет мира $1 миллиард США из замороженных еще при прежней администрации США российских активов. Что касается нашего участия в Совете мира, то МИДу России поручено изучить поступившие к нам документы, проконсультироваться на этот счет с нашими стратегическими партнерами, и только после этого мы сможем дать ответ на переданное нам приглашение.
We want all nations. We want all nations where people have control, people have power. That way, we're never going to have a problem. This is the greatest board ever assembled, and everybody wants to be on it. But yeah, I have some controversial people on it, but these are people that get the job done. These are people that have tremendous influence, and I'd like, but all babies on the board, there wouldn't be very much. So he was invited. He's accepted. Many people have accepted. I don't know of anybody that hasn't accepted, but it's going to be great. I think the Board of Peace will be the most prestigious board ever, and it's going to get a lot of work done that the United Nations should have done. And we'll work with the United Nations, but the Board of Peace is going to...
Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Rabinder Sachdev. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Sachdev, for joining us. Good to see you.
Hello.
Now looking at this, why do you think Russia has, specifically said that they will be using, they are open to this idea of joining, but they can contribute by using $1 billion from their frozen assets. Why do you think they have said this?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think they've said it to basically claim the fact that that money belongs to Russia, that they should be able to use the money as they want, right? It's their money, no doubt, but it's frozen and locked up, about $250 billion in Europe, mostly in Brussels, some in Switzerland, and about 50 odd billion in the United States. So this is one way also of throwing, let's say, a spanner in the works, right? Because there's a lot of discussion going on as in Europe and how to use the frozen money. In fact, they are taking interest based upon that collateral interest, right? So by asking for this, Russia throws a legal spanner in the works in which Europe is planning to use that money. It makes it difficult for them because it sets a legal precedent that the money belongs to Russia, which it does, but it has the use of it also. So there are multiple layers, I would say, on that. And secondly, it again indicates Putin's strategy. Yes, he goes along with Trump and says Trump is a great guy, a good friend. So he conveys that he is agreeing to the principle of joining the board of the Board of Peace. So he's agreeing. So Trump should be happy with that. Yeah, Putin has agreed. But the caveat he's putting is that of the money, And that caveat is to create legal problems.
Mr. Sachdev, we might have lost you over here. Oh, well, okay. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia could contribute $1 billion from frozen assets to U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. He has also said that the funds would support the board's efforts to oversee global peace initiatives, including the Israel-Gaza ceasefire. Putin has also stated that Russia is currently examining the invitation to join the Board of Peace. He has mentioned that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing the proposal and consulting with strategic partners. Meanwhile, Trump has announced that Putin has accepted the invitation to join the initiative, which aims to involve the world leaders in resolving global conflicts. Russian President Vladimir Putin has stated that Russia could contribute $1 billion from frozen Russian assets to U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. He has also said that the funds would support the board's efforts to oversee global peace initiatives, including the Israel-Gaza ceasefire. Putin has also stated that Russia is currently examining the invitation to join the Board of Peace. He has mentioned that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing the proposal and consulting with strategic partners. Meanwhile, Trump has announced that Putin has accepted the invitation to join the initiative, which aims to involve world leaders in resolving global conflicts. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia could contribute $1 billion from frozen assets to U.S. President Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Has also said that the funds would support the board's efforts to oversee global peace initiatives, including the Israel-Gaza ceasefire. Putin has also stated that Russia is currently examining the invitation to join the Board of Peace. Has mentioned that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing the proposal and consulting with strategic partners. Putin has also stated that Russia is currently examining the invitation to join the Board of Peace. He has mentioned that the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs is reviewing the proposal and consulting with strategic partners. Now we move on to U.S. A Republican-led House panel has recommended holding Bill and Hillary Clinton in contempt of Congress. The move comes after the former President and Secretary of State refused to testify about ties to the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The committee says the Clintons' refusal after 5 months of negotiations substantially interfered with its investigation. Bill Clinton reportedly offered to testify under oath from his New York office, but the panel rejected the offer. If approved by the full House, the Justice Department could pursue criminal charges carrying up to a year in jail and $100,000 in fines. The investigation has drawn attention due to the Clintons' past association with Epstein and political rivalries with President Donald Trump. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Mr. Rabinder Sachdev. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Sachdev, for joining us again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, looking at this, what's happening with the Clintons? Why do you think they have decided not to cooperate, and now again they have and then the Republican-led House has said that they will not accept them contributing to this investigation from their own office?
Thank you. See, in a big way, the
Yes.
Clintons look at this as a witch hunt. They think that the
Yes.
Republicans are prosecuting them out of political vendetta rather than any facts, which Clinton says that he has already clarified. So the bottom line is that they do not want to give any legitimacy to this inquiry, which is of course led by the Republicans, because the Republicans are in the majority in the lower house and the committee is headed by a chairman who is a Republican. So they think it's a political stunt, it's an agenda, and also partially it's a tactic to deflect the attention regarding Epstein Files on President Trump. So a mix of these factors leads them probably to declined to appear before the House.
Right. And what risks and consequences could arise from this committee considering contempt charges against the Clintons?
See, yeah, there are some risks. There could be risk of some fine and some more also. But the thing is that they could also be looking at, dragging and delaying this out. I mean, they could fight it out in a court, etc. And then midterm elections are coming up in November, right? And there is a good chance that in the November elections, the Republicans will lose their majority in the lower house. The Democrats will win perhaps the lower house. In that case, the chairmanship of the committees and the composition of the committees will go towards the Democrats. And then the committee can, choose to just ignore or just to shut the file up.
Right. So, so now how is this investigation intensifying pressure on the Trump administration?
This investigation is definitely, intensifying pressure on the Trump administration and on Trump himself. The point is that the Department of Justice has released many files, probably all, but they're still working through. And recently they announced that they've discovered 1 million more documents in the New York office of the DOJ, right? And then they're redacting, that is, blackening out some names, etc. The MAGA base itself is splitting on this basis. Remember Marjorie Taylor Greene? She's become a persona non grata, primarily because apparently of the way the Trump administration handled the Epstein Files, transparency, or which is something they want. So this is building up pressure on Trump without doubt, because it's leading again and again to conspiracy theories and what ifs and scenarios, whataboutery. So this is hurting Trump, I would say, not as much as in amongst the other voters, but it is hurting Trump within his own voter base. That is the danger for Trump.
So, what political message is this House panel's contempt recommendation is sending, and how do you think this is going to be affecting the voters as well?
See, the political message this message is sending is also sending a message to the MAGA base. MAGA base has been very much, after, in a way, you could say, Hillary Clinton, linking her to a pedophile ring in any case, separate to this Epstein Files. So the political message, on the one hand, it sends to the base is that, yeah, look here, we are, pursuing Hillary. So it kind of satisfies the base. Okay, yes. The MAGA base, it satisfies them. Those who believe and think that, Hillary practices witchcraft and she's a pedophile and multiple other things. So the base feels good and happy that Hillary is being persecuted. So that makes them a little happy. But on the other hand, there are within MAGA people who want more transparency, or who are confused and who genuinely are not clear as to what is there in the files, which is not being revealed. They believe that there are loads of other people. They think especially more Democrats are involved, or Democrat leading corporate leaders are involved. That is what they want to unearth.
Right. And Mr. Sachdev, last but not least, how could this move be affecting the broader credibility once again and perceived impartiality of this congressional investigation into Epstein Files?
I mean, broadly speaking, it will be seen probably as political vendetta by the Republicans against the Clintons.
Right. Thank you very much. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Rabinder Sachdev for joining us today and sharing that insight. Now we move to our next news. U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that U.S. had a good speech as U.S. got great reviews, and he cannot believe it that U.S. got good reviews on that speech. He conceded that usually people don't like him by saying usually. They say he's a... Trump has added that he's a dictator, but sometimes you need a dictator. Let's listen into what Trump has shared.
We had a good speech. We got great reviews. I can't believe it. We got good reviews in that speech. Usually they say he's a horrible dictator type person. I'm a dictator. But sometimes you need a dictator. But they didn't say that in this case. And no, it's common sense. It's all based on common sense, you know. It's not conservative or liberal or anything else. It's mostly, I'd say 95% common sense, and that's what we have. The United States is doing really well, doing like nobody thought was actually possible, certainly not this soon. It's 1 year. It's exactly a year if you think about it. Time flies. It's 25%. It's a long time.
Now we move on to our tech news. Apple is rolling out a major discount of up to $143.6 on selected iPhones, Macs, iPads, and Apple Watches in China as the competition in China's smartphone and electronics market heats up. Apple has been offering a limited time discounts on selective devices to maintain consumer interest as compared to the domestic brands, which have been pushing aggressive price cuts, particularly during shopping festivals. This limited time offer will run from January 24th to 27th January. However, the latest iPhone 17 model is excluded from the promotion. Apple's offer excludes the iPhone 17, focusing on selected devices, which are iPhone 16, 16 Plus, 16e, MacBook Air M4, MacBook Pro M4 and N5, Mac Mini and iMac, iPad, and many other. This move is aimed at strengthening its position and to boost the sale in the competitive Chinese market. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.